Good evening. My name is Alex Osborne, and I'm the co-curator for the Native American Studies Center at the University of South Carolina, Lancaster. I'm the co-curator for this gallery specifically, which is Humor, Parody, and Satire, Part 2. And we are lucky and honored to have one of our artists that is featured in this gallery, Marcus Dunn. Excuse me, I have a couple of notes about Marcus Dunn that I would like to read. Dunn descends from Tuscarora and PD tribal lineage. He earned his MFA in painting from the Savannah College of Art and Design, and currently teaches at Richmond Community College and the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. So without further ado, let's turn it over to him.
Thank you guys for having me in today. Should I take this one?
Move around, you're fine.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about my backstory and how I got into painting and drawing and all that stuff. As a child, I used to watch my brother draw all the time. He actually took art classes in high school, things like that. But even before that, he was making drawings. He just had a natural talent for it, and I mean, he's still very great at it. I think highly of my brother. And when he would draw, I used to go through my sister's old journals and find blank pages. I would just draw on them, and she would get mad at me she would get upset with me for doing that kind of stuff, and I just kept doing it. And then eventually I got little comic books with Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man and all that stuff, so I would copy those things. I realized that I had a knack for it as well, just like my brother did. So those things were things that kind of propelled me to keep wanting to go on more and more. And when I was in elementary school, kids would ask me to draw their portraits. I thought that was kind of weird because for me, as someone who was not trained as an artist, they would ask me to do that, and I was like, okay, it made me feel good. So I kept doing things like that. And eventually, I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career, as a person looking out, trying to find a job. So I decided after my second year of undergrad, because I was a hardcore athlete, I ran cross country, I ran track. That's the only reason I went to college to pursue athletics. And at my first 2 years, and eventually my dad encouraged me to apply to Institute of American Indian Arts. That's where it all took off. I went to Santa Fe. Institute of American Indian Arts became a new home for me. I felt at home, not just the location was a new place, it felt like a place that I could kind of discover new things, new territory. But also I felt like I had peers, other Native people from different communities all throughout North America and South America, and that were all there. It was a pan-Indian, a huge hybrid of different cultures coming together. And that was where I really feel like I started to develop the urge to create more and to investigate into not only what natives were doing in the art world, but also in the contemporary art world as well. And so I started, I really fell in love with painting. I had a teacher, his name was Jeff Cam, Cree Nation from Alberta, Canada, and I owe pretty much everything to him as far as wanting to become a professor. He was someone I looked up to. He was just an excellent role model and someone that I really appreciate for all that he did. And I probably wouldn't have these paintings here today if it wasn't for him and many other people that have inspired me. Just like I said, my dad, my brother, my wife, my mom, everybody has encouraged me to do this kind of work. I went on to kind of continue making paintings, and I didn't really want to approach Native American content in the work. I felt like making work that had Native American content, if I was going to approach it, it was going to seem stereotypical, and I wanted to go as far away from that as possible. Not saying anything using traditional attire, regalia, anything like that enters into the stereotypical realm. But if I'm going to do it, I don't want to do what other non-native people have done for so many years of I wouldn't say exploiting Native culture, but romanticizing Native culture to make it something that it really wasn't. Especially at those times, it was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of disease, a lot of things that were, it was not a pretty sight, and they made it into something that felt like paradise when you look at those paintings. So, I think around 2015, 2016, I started researching a lot of the photographs from American Indian boarding schools, and I was just overwhelmed with the sadness looking at these images of children's faces, of these large groups of kids having to all do the same thing that wasn't part of their culture, part of their upbringing, all being, every single one of them being forcibly refused to not speak their native tongue, not to participate in their native tradition, their ceremonies, all of that stuff. You think about all those things when you see those photographs, and I was just taken aback by how lively these photographs were, and that they still had lives even though they were forced to be in these very constraining environments. So to get to the work that you see now, this is kind of the culmination of maybe like 4, 5, 6 years of making work that's explored this territory. And I'm trying to do it in a way that is my own interpretation of the narrative of what happened at these schools. Not just to show all the bad things that happened, but also to show the psychology of it. To show on these children's faces, or not only that, just through the gestures of their bodies and how they interact with one another, of how they're being assimilated, or not only that, but to show that they are people that are actually living and actually have lives of their own, living in this time, the early 1900s, when the only paintings that you see of people during this time, during the post-impressionist period, or the early American paintings, are people from other cultures, so other backgrounds. And I want to give these people voices too, that their voices can be heard. A large portion of my paintings are mostly from my sketchbooks. They're actually mostly, these 3 right here are actually things that I've just drawn on my own without looking at photo references. But these 2 larger ones right here across from each other, those actually came from actual photographs at the residential schools. So I do use imagery from those places, but I also want to incorporate things that also come from how I can also make up my own version of the story as well. Just the things I've read. So that's how I approach the work. The work is going to continue. I'm going to keep making work that involves residential school history, but also I want to gradually incorporate more things that are happening today with the Native youth, and trying to show the revitalization of the culture in the work. Because revitalizing the culture is very important. It's something that we're constantly doing every day, trying to relearn the languages, trying to relearn ceremonies, trying to relearn the songs and dances, how to actually make our own foods like we used to. So I'm interested in all of that, and I want to find ways to share those stories with other people through my games. That's pretty much it that I have. I welcome any questions that you guys have about the work and anything about the things that either this work or anything that interested in asking about. Whatever.
Marcus, do you work in any other medium?
No. I'm pretty stubborn. So I will find something and I'll just stick to that. I am someone who's very open-minded though. And I'm open to learning new techniques, new styles, new whatever. But no, they're all acrylic on canvas. I don't like oil paint. I don't really like watercolor, the translucency of it. I like being able to cover up things with acrylic paint because I like to quickly get things down, let it dry in 2 minutes, and then keep working. And I also like the fact that I can make these paintings, and the next day I can go ahead and wrap them up and seal them up and put them in a box, and they're ready to go. I don't know, those are things that I like about what I use, but I do use sketchbooks, graphite pencils, charcoal, paper, just for preliminary studies, performance paintings, just to make sketches and drawings for ideas for work. So
When you start a piece, is it paint on canvas, or do you draw on it first, or you just go straight to?
Yeah, well, I have used charcoal or graphite on canvas first, but I've got to the point where I feel like I can sketch with the paintbrush, so I mostly do that as getting the blocking figures, or just any of the preliminary work that I want to do underneath the top layers. I'll just do most of it in paint. Yeah.
So I'm asking this as a fellow native artist.
Yeah.
I really love the subtlety and the nuance of the commentary in your work. Of the work to anyone who doesn't know the context might not assume that this is about residential schools or about different stories and things. And I love hearing the background of that. And I also really identify with the idea that contemporary work doesn't have to look a certain way. And something that really resonates with me that you said is that you want your work to harken back to residential school survivors and kind of document the stories of our ancestors, right? What would you say to youth that may have this perceived notion that their artwork isn't valid unless it's traditional, and want to pursue more contemporary works within the
Yeah, I would just recommend them to look beyond what they see in the Santa Fe Indian Market. I love Santa Fe Indian Market. Every summer that I was in Santa Fe, I loved going to it. I have so many friends that participate in that, and it's great. It's a great outlet for native artists all over Turtle Island to have a chance to showcase their work and sell their work if they're gifted that. But there tends to be a theme where work does need to look a certain way to fit in the market. That's also with the other art markets too, outside of native art markets. But I would recommend them to apply to open calls for shows anywhere. See if you can show your work internationally. It doesn't matter. If you're native, that makes your work native. Whether your work has punk rock music involved in it, it has your love of fashion, whatever. Your work is native for the simple fact that you're native. So forget about what the art market is. Don't worry if your work doesn't go follow those trends that are happening in the native art market. Just continue making what you want to make. Eventually your work will evolve. You're not always going to make the same work that you're making right now. Maybe it will lend itself myself towards that side, but don't force it. Because if you force something, it looks pretentious. I hate that word, but that's just what happens. So just try to make something that feels natural, feels like you. You're expressing what you want to see in art. That's how I've always thought about art. Is that just like with these schools, I want to see these faces. I want to see more brown faces in museums, native faces, and so that's why I'm making this work.
Chris, what do you know about the three people in the portrait?
Well, one of them just kind of the boy in the middle wants to kind of just get to his own. I felt like that was a self-portrait of myself. So I'm kind of I like to be around people, but I also like to break off in my own. And I never like to turn the lights on. I like to sit in the dark all the time sometimes, if I'm not like making something or whatever. So, or if I'm not trying to make a plate of food or something. So I'll sit off in the dark and I'll just try to get to myself and escape. That's what that feels like. The other two, I don't know. I don't like to use the B word, but resting B face. For all the pride. She's just kind of like she's just like it's either after school or after classes, and she's just kind of like annoyed and stuff, and like I don't know, teenage things that teenagers, adolescents go through. Who knows what she's thinking about? But this one, I don't know. I always go through phases where I'm adding things to me, or I tweak a face, and then the gesture is totally different. They might look like extremely happy woman. Next minute I'll make a few marks, and they look really sad, or they look really tired, or they look old. They look a different age. So I'm always trying to make them look. If I'm trying to go with this boarding school era or team, I'm trying to make them look somewhat young, but also this one I stopped where I stopped at it because and it is kind of has an unfinished look, but I liked what was going on with her eyes and how things aren't fully all the way realized in her mind of what she wants to do or what she's feeling. She's unsure about herself and about something. So that's kind of where I felt with this piece. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I have to slow this one again, so I'm sorry for the picture.
Oh, that's cool.
This piece over here with the kids watching TV really spoke to me because my dad is Gestapo, and he grew up watching Cowboys and Indians all the time, and so that's something that I grew up with too. And there's this really weird juxtaposition, right? Because on the one hand, you might see some representation in seeing natives portrayed on the screen, but then on the other hand, you learn about the history of like spaghetti westerns and the problems that has. What sort of messages do you think that we can convey to anyone about this sort of juxtaposition and help them to relate to our experience?
I would just like to send a message out to anybody that we have a tendency to watch these things and we're entertained by them just like anybody else. But there is that area of like, is this right? Should I be who should I be rooting for? Should I be rooting for it? I'm doing it. But I don't really like the way the Indians are in this movie. I actually like John Wayne in this movie, so I might pull for him. Right. It's kind of that way. It's just like I think there's a lot of confusion there, and it's also this is an age. I'm trying to show this as like young boy. I want to look like young kids. This is an age where you pick up on things, and the things that you pick up from media oftentimes, using television as media, are things that you kind of keep you it sticks with you, and you think about those things years later. I mean, you got people who constantly, maybe like, I thought maybe it's only living in teepees, and these are like in their 60s when they should have read that like hogans existed, wigwams existed, longhouses existed. They should already know this kind of stuff, but they in their minds it's like, oh, I'm only thinking of what John Ford made in that Western, 1946, which is like, I mean, come on. Did you not realize that South Dakota is one of 50 states? Do you not realize that Mexico used to be a part of, there used to not be a borderline there. Mexico used to come all the way up through California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, and all of those native people had a similar DNA. So they're all the same. Mexican Indians are the same as the Indians in the United States. They just don't have a tribal card. That's the only difference. So there's a lot of things that I feel like is reflected in like how we see things that certain small groups will try to force on us that have powerful voices. So
I think that this speaks to the really good job of countering that. That's a thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
What do you think about the news reporters who now are classifying us as native creatures? Indigenous creatures. Yeah.
I saw it. I really don't know what to make of it. It's just another way of them calling us something else, or just pigeonholing us into a small category. Where this continent has so many hundreds and hundreds of languages. We didn't all speak the same dialect. I mean, even in certain small little regions, little pockets, there are multiple dialects. Just everybody, it's just another way of pigeonholing us. Yeah. Just another way of pigeonholing us into one category. And there's so much diversity out there.
Marcus, we have a question online. I don't want them to feel ignored. Can you tell us what your intention of your color choices is? Are they presenting the past?
I think it could, but I also let the paintings arrive at themselves naturally, kind of organically. Like even the outfits there, the two sweaters, I have a green one and a blue one, or a teal one and a blue one. I'm not a colorist, but I am off color in my work, and I think color does speak to me in ways that affects me emotionally. So I think those are the things that I'm more interested in. I'm not necessarily interested in making them feel nostalgic based on colors or the mark making or anything like that. That's harkening back to a previous time period. I do reference painting that does go back to, say, early 1900s and late 1800s. I just like those styles. It might seep into my work, but I think it's mostly driven by the emotions of the work, behind the work, and how I want the mood of the paintings to be perceived by an audience.
Talk a little bit about this piece.
Yeah, I know it's a strange painting. I thought the image of the two girls holding these ducks or geese or whatever you call them. I thought it was really kind of odd, and it was slightly humorous, and I was trying to think of ways to incorporate, I was trying to know this theme that we're kind of going with satire in this work, and thinking of these two young girls holding all these geese. It's like, where are they going with it? How did they get them? Are they just carrying them from a big truckload? I don't know. I wanted people to wonder what's going on in this piece. Even though the other paintings seem a little bit more straightforward and simple, this one makes you wonder a little bit. It adds a little bit more mystery to it.
No, I'm just going to add that about this painting here. Marcus's uncle, when he was a little boy, my mother-in-law told me this, that he was sitting watching the cowboy movies on TV. And in so terrible that people who want to say, "Mom, I don't." That's never true.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I have a question. So for the kids out there, or the adolescents, or even the adults that have native blood but have lost touch with their culture, how do you recommend or ways that they can learn about the past or learn about their families?
I think the best way is to try not to incorporate a negative mindset when if you're talking to anybody of any culture. I think you can learn a lot from everybody, and that's going to help you be more secure in yourself, in your identity. Is not to shun other cultures. I think because this is a culture, I'm not trying to pigeonhole native culture as one, but yeah, indigenous people all across have been told that they're not good enough. So I think it's best to embrace those, people that aren't like you, and try to, and also try to think of forgiveness, even if you have that kind of like inner hatred towards like what's happened in the past, to kind of try to find ways to let go of that, while still using that negativity that happened to give you fire to keep pushing on. So try to relearn your languages and find ways, because there's outlets out there. Find ways to learn more about who you are and your people.
Are there groups, are there places that they can go in their different areas for that?
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of resources out there. There's communities out there that are trying to make a push for different things to expand culture, expand what it is to incorporate native culture in your lives. You can go to powwows, you can go to things like that, but there's even more. That's even more broad. There's even more remote things that you can do just to help your family and just to promote the culture as well.
See if we have anything, again, if you're online and you have questions, type it into the chat. Since we talked about those, let's try to move the camera without making people watch it nauseous. Let's talk about this piece here. So I don't want to ignore this piece. Actually, this is one of my favorites, the ones that are here.
Thank you.
Say a little bit about.
Yeah, this piece, I believe I called it Barn Girl, or something like that. I can't remember, but I made this summer while I was in residency. I had residency in Southeast Maine, which is Abenaki territory, and I was really impressed by the surroundings, the environment, and all of our studios that we had this summer. I was there for 9 weeks. All of our studios were non-climate controlled barns that were, we could go there anytime we wanted and work on our paintings. This is one of the paintings I made there. I was basically painting my surroundings. I was painting where I was at, and I was like, okay, well, how can I incorporate, how can I incorporate the narrative storytelling of residential schools in this setting? I thought of this, just a young girl in a barn. Maybe she's finished working and she's kind of like taking a rest, or she's about to go work. Maybe it could be early morning, it could be late evening. I made it more of a darker, landscape, like a night or early morning landscape, and simple as that. I don't really know where else I was really going with it, but I do feel like it was a piece that that I worked really long and hard to figure out how to make the face work. Yeah, it's been a long time on the face. The body, like how she was propped up against the thing. I actually took a picture of myself propped up against the table, and I was just like, all right, I can use that kind of reference from. And then the face, I didn't really know how to do it for a while. I probably went through, on this canvas, I probably went through like 10 versions of the face just to get, wipe it away or paint over it, paint it again, paint over it, paint it again. It might not look like it, there's not a lot of texture, but just thin layers of paint. But yeah, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get to that, to be finished.
We have a question online from, I think it's one of my students who's getting some extra credit now for asking a question. Do you start each piece, you always get that credit. Do you start each piece of art from scratch? If not, do you piece other pieces of artwork together to make it your own? So do you start from scratch, or are you borrowing from other art?
I have borrowed from other paintings before, other artists' work. Most of the work is from scratch, yeah. I'm trying to think of a particular one that I've done that with. But I know I've like kind of like took themes, or maybe it was the way a figure was standing in a painting, and I was like, okay, I want to incorporate that because I love the composition of how this figure is framed in the canvas like this. So I use that. I cannot remember, but most of the time it is done from scratch, and more and more. But like I said, a lot of them do come from images, and I'll replicate things like exactly coming from those photographs. I might tweak and maybe remove things that were in the photograph so it doesn't have all the content that's in there. Certain objects or different things, I'll just eliminate those. But yeah, more recently, yeah, it's all come from things that I've just, not even thought too much about or too hard about, but just sketch in my sketchbook to come up with these ideas.
I have a question of pure curiosity. As I'm looking at your piece too, there's this like almost surreal element of juxtaposition. Like you have the kids watching the spaghetti westerns, and then you have, like you said, the geese. Like it struck you as odd. Like what's happening here?
Yeah.
Does that happen for you naturally, or is that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more natural. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I like everything. I'm not one that I don't like a certain genre of music, or I don't like a certain genre of movie. I like to find things that just kind of anything that just pulls me to it. That has that ability to pull me, whether it's an actor or if it's from a movie, or if it's like a sound or a certain part of the music coming from the score of a movie or something. I don't know. There's always something, and it's always something like that pulls me to it. I do incorporate in these paintings also things that I feel will really push your emotions in ways that might incorporate humor, suspense, drama, sadness. I do think a lot about those, and I think about having a wide variety of that and not just making them all feel the same way. I don't want them to be stagnant. So that's something I try to get away from.
That really shows, and that's really awesome.
Are there artists in particular, native and non-native artists, that influence you, have influenced you?
Yeah, well, definitely my instructor in college, Jeff Cam. I'll mention a friend of mine, Pete Hoffman from Mejia. His native blood is from Colombia. And he's a figurative, well, I wouldn't say he's a figurative artist, he's a sculpture artist that does mixed media sculpture using indigenous motifs to kind of add a commentary about how indigenous motifs and patterns are used in consumer society. So His work I really like.
What's his name again?
Pete Hoffaker Mejia. Hoffaker Mejia. So just you can say Pete Mejia, but you can find it. You can find it on Instagram or his website. I like his work a lot. And Jeffrey Gibson, another native artist, I really like his work. He incorporates. He does painting, textiles. Beadwork in his sculptural works, and they're incredible. But some painters, and I'm just thinking mostly of just contemporary painters that I look at. I love this guy named Matt Bollinger. He makes narrative paintings. Peter Doig, he's a painter that's been around since the 80s, but his work is just has an atmospheric quality that's like it's kind of unparalleled. I can't find. I don't know how he does it, and his work is not the most technical either. He's not an extremely technical draftsman, but the atmospheres are just they're dreamlike, and yeah, those would be some of my favorites.
If folks are interested in purchasing your work, how would they go about that? Make it off.
Send an email. My wife also, she's more of like a manager. She does the manager side of things.
Okay,
I mean, we both just make decisions on like different things with maybe pricing or things. But yeah, I mean, it's simple as just send an email.
Your website.
My website is a great way to reach me, or if you want to email me on Instagram, whatever's the easiest for you. My Instagram is easy to find.
What is your website?
Oh, well, it's my name, marcusdunn.com. But also there's links to my Instagram, my social media is all on my website, so that's a great resource right there. We find everything there.
Under Michael B. Dunn.
Sorry, Marcus.
Marcus B. I was thinking Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Repeat it.
Yeah.
Repeat it slowly.
I think that's cool.
Repeat it slowly.
Yeah, I talk too fast. MarcusBDunn.com.
You're gonna do some dancing?
Yeah.
Pete, before you do, talk a little bit about your rebellion.
Yeah. So my regalia is actually so I'm Tuscarora PD. The regalia I'm wearing. Sometimes we wear regalia that has a little bit more southeastern style that would be more like PD style, but this regalia right here, I'm showing more of like the Iroquois style. This is a ribbon shirt right here, of course. Gorgeous necklace. I have my grease cloth, my aprons, deer toes for shakers on my knees. These are my leggings right here. These are more southeastern style. And this is my Gastole right here. Gastole. Gastole. And it's made with split wood going around the top, front and back, sides, and around the band right here, and it's covered with leather. And the top right here, of course, is dangling split turkey feathers. So these are, it's really simple regalia. Of course, this is Eastern Woodlands. It doesn't have a bunch of huge feathers on it. So it's very simple. It's made for these heavily wooded areas. My wife's also wearing a Muskogee Creek style dress, and that is more along the lines of like showing her creek lines and her creek heritage is shown through that. She also has Iroquois style moccasins. And her apron also is creek style. And she's also wearing a wampum style Algonquin or Iroquois style belt to show some of her Iroquois heritage as well. Her necklace and earrings were made by my mom. The necklace has Iroquois style raised beadwork with floral design, as well as the moccasins with raised beadwork. And then my dad's wearing basically similar style regalia to mine. He has more beadwork on his breechcloth and his leggings than I do. He's also wearing leather fringe, ties around his knees, and of course I can talk about the sash. We're both wearing an Assumption sash, but that's also got a necklace that has a strawberry at the end of it. That's to signify, and also his cups have strawberries. So those are to signify the importance of strawberries in our strawberry ceremonies that we have in the late springtime. And I think that pretty much covers it, right? Did I miss anything?
We have one more comment on.
Oh, sure.
Let's see, it's a question or comment. Let's see. Speaking of influence, your color palette and brushwork reminds me, this is Jackie Adams of the Columbia Museum of Art, reminds me of the American-Mexican artist Pablo O'Higgins, and to some extent, perceptual painters too. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thank all of you guys for logging in and checking in on the Zoom call. It means a lot.
Let me move the camera back before you dance. Again, for folks online, try not to get nauseous. Okay.
We're going to start off with a standing quiver. This is a stomp dance style dance. The standing quiver was performed by a lot of the men would do this before going off to battle. They would stand their quiver of arrows. All of them would put their quiver of arrows in the center of, say, a field or wherever they're dancing, or in the center of the longhouse. They would put a ball in the middle, and they would dance around, counterclockwise around this quiver of arrows. That's why it's called the standing quiver dance. It's usually the dance that leads off the socials that are performed, and so we'll go ahead and start with that one. When the beat changes, or when the pace of the round Harvard dance. Next thing we're gonna do is the alligator dance. This is a partner's dance. Normally, the singer will sing away from the dancers, but we're just gonna sing the whole thing together. So. Oh, hey! Oh, I forgot to add about the alligator dance is that it originated by the Seminoles in Florida. So that's a Seminole dance that was adopted by other natives throughout the East Coast region. The Iroquois and other groups adopted that a lot of Southeastern. So the next dance that I'm gonna do, that I'm gonna sing is gonna be, I'm gonna do a quick version of the Delaware skin dance. This is an Algonquian origin dance by the Delaware Indians or the Lenape Indians. So this was also a dance that was shared and borrowed amongst the cultures in the eastern woodlands along the Haudenosaunee and around all throughout the East Coast region. So we're going to go ahead and do the Delaware skin dance.
Usually you have a bench in the middle, and the singer sits on a bench with a wooden stick. No. work with that. That's all right.
Thank you guys.
Marcus is a champion smoke dancer. He went to Gathering of Nations one year. What year was that? 2014. You can find him on YouTube. He tied first place among all the record dancers out there. And they had a runoff. And he came in second place. But still, that's an accomplishment. Gathering of Nations is probably one of the biggest powers anywhere. So, anyway.
Dad's gonna sing one or two smoke dance songs, and I'll go ahead and perform some smoke dance.
Let me think of one. That's the best thing. Me? I'm gonna
Get my dad out there. He's gonna do his version of smoke dance.
I usually do it, man, but I'm not.
Slow down, slow down.
Slow down, man. If I fall down, you know.
Yeah. thank you guys for all staying and, joining in with us. I love sharing my work, my artwork, but even more than that, I love sharing the native culture and their songs and dances. So I'm glad you guys got to see some of that too tonight. So thank you guys for.
Let's see if we have any last questions. Anybody online have any questions for Marcus? Great job. I want to mention that we have more events coming up. Wednesday evening, we'll be joined by folks from Wonderlore Studios who are talking about their new media projects focused on Native American programming. We're lucky enough to live in a time when we're seeing more and more good programming, good media focused on Native American culture. And then on continuing with that sort of theme, on Thursday, we'll be showing clips of Rutherford Falls and Reservation Dogs, two one popular, one not as popular comedy shows with a panel from the Catawba Nation discussing Native American themes and issues and ideas and representation in those. And then on Friday, speaking of dancing, we have Jess Moore from Columbia College who will be talking about Native American dance traditions. And then we'll continue on next week with a couple of more programs. So I invite you all to log on or come by the Native American Studies Center for those. And let's see. And the last comment here, good job, thank you. And I will echo that, good job.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.